Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gregory Alba.
And my name is John Johns.
In case you didn't watch our video talking about the restricted mode, most of our videos are not being shown on YouTube. A lot have been blocked. So we're going to have to be a little more family friendly. For uncensored deleted scenes and uncensored video exclusive segments, go check out our Patreon.
Yeah. If you want the real rejects you know and love, go.
Yeah, that's the one you're going to want to go to.
That's where you're going to go.
We're going to review Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Dose today.
Oh, boy.
But before we do that, we got to give a Patron of the Day shout out. Gareth Hood has a son. Gareth Hood's son.
Gareth Hood has procreated and has spawned one of the coolest kids of all time.
Yusuf Hood.
Yusuf Hood.
Yusuf, I want you to know your dad is one of the most beautiful gents you have ever known.
We spent a while talking to him about a week ago, and he's a charming guy.
When you're an adult and you want to get married, man or woman that you want to marry, you're going to want to make sure he's in the image of your father, Gareth. Even if he's a woman, you gotta get a woman with a beard. Transgender. Hopefully, this doesn't get blocked on restricted mode.
It's not as simple as that.
I know how it works. Yusuf, I'm sure you're just as beautiful as your dad. You stay... Are we allowed to say sexy?
You stay good-hearted and adorable, I assume.
We're gonna have to figure out more of how this restricted mode is working on these videos. Anyway, let's hop into this Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 review. We're gonna shoot a spoiler review right after this. We're gonna keep this completely non-spoiler.
Yeah, we're shooting these back-to-back like Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. So. Production design is really good in this movie. The production design is fantastic. It looks just as good, if not better at times, in this film. Effects are just as wonderful as they've always been.
The look and feel of this movie is probably the most successful thing that they did. Like, I love that they ramped up the space opera quality, so it's like, we got different races of people and different looking places and different kinds of ships. And I feel like they took some time to go even deeper with that and to mix practical and visual effects. Yeah. The most dazzling thing, the thing that I got lost in.
Yeah, we're starting off with all the things we really liked about the film. Baby Groot is really adorable. Man, I didn't realize how much I swear until I'm trying to catch myself on how much I swear. Yeah. Baby Groot, he's in this film and he is completely adorable. Every time Baby Groot is on screen, I think I audibly would go, "Aww, aww," all the time. Aww.
Yeah, I like Baby Groot too. I thought it was cool that they switched his role around so that now everything he has to do is fit for a tiny guy.
Yeah.
You know, which is like a neat contrast. I like that they changed, you know, they took advantage of having a different Groot. You know, like that was nice.
Yeah, it made for some interesting dynamics and seeing different sides. Because I feel like in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, the other Guardians, including Rocket, would often get annoyed with Groot. And it was part of the humor. In this movie, they're all actively taking care of Groot. You know?
Yeah, because he's the most at risk in some ways of the whole team.
Yeah,
because he is like a child in this, even more than before. Like before, he was just kind of simple, but now he is very much like a kid.
Yeah, he's so cute, and this movie does make you want to have a baby Groot of your own. You kind of wish it was real. The cast is all still really good. Star-Lord is funny. Gamora is cool. I really thought that the character that was the highlight of the film, I think for a lot of people, including myself and John, was Yondu.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is truly about him.
It really is, actually. And in our spoiler review, we'll go more into it.
Yeah, to me, this movie almost felt like some weird film where the subplot got made the main plot and the real plot was about Yondu, because that's the character that gets developed the most, that you learn the most about, that you get into the most interesting situations with. He's
the one who's the most different, too, as compared to what we saw in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And also the addition of Kurt Russell as Ego, Star-Lord's father. I thought Kurt Russell did a really... every time he was speaking on screen, I was like, I'm really happy Kurt Russell's in this movie.
And he seemed happy to be there. Like, he brought the charm, and there are some scenes where, like, Kurt Russell's good, and then a moment will come up where I'm like, wow, he really put his all into this, it seems like.
Kurt Russell was a wonderful addition. The biggest theme of this movie is fathers and sons. The father and son story of Star-Lord and Ego getting to know each other is an actual interesting element to me.
And how Yondu figures into all that.
Into the father figure aspect as well. Because a lot of this film, it doesn't do as much crazy galaxy exploration as, say, the first film. Here, a lot of it takes place on the planet, Ego, the living planet. So in a weird way, this film sort of feels like it wanted to go bigger, yet it was a little smaller.
Yeah, it doesn't like, I don't remember it traversing the galaxy so much as the first one does. It seems like a more linear movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Just like all things are leading to Ego.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, which is at least structurally, I think is a good idea.
Especially like the first half of the film. I think a lot of people, and I think I even whispered something to John during the movie, like it felt rather tonally uneven, and there were some definite pacing issues. It was structured well. Like, in terms of structure, one thing I for sure noticed was, I remember the first Guardians of the Galaxy starts off on a rather serious note. Star-Lord loses his parents, he gets abducted. Even when he first shows up and you see Star-Lord as an adult, it's still in this serious tone until he turns on his Walkman and starts dancing. And they're like, oh, okay, it's a different vibe now.
Yeah.
This movie just throws you into, it's a fun mode until like the last half hour when it starts getting a lot more serious. You know?
Yeah, I feel like this movie starts out as a comedy and then slowly over the course of it starts to twist into this sci-fi drama.
Yeah, it gets like a lot more dramatic.
Yeah, and some of that stuff works. I agree in the sense, like, I thought the structure was cool. It's not the same structure as the first one, which was nice.
Because the first one, the plot is very defined of, okay, these outlaws are all banding together. They're going to have most likely, and they end up going after Ronan. The whole goal is to get Ronan. Here, the plot of it, it's kind of hard to explain what the plot is because it's a little complicated.
There's a lot of and then.
Yeah. A lot of it is like taking place on this bonding journey with Ego and Star-Lord, and you're not exactly sure where the plot's going. And I actually, by the time the movie became more defined, I actually liked that. I like being on this journey of wondering, where's this film going? And then you start to see, oh, here's where it's going. After like an hour.
Totally. Like, I thought the opening credit sequence was really cool. I was really pulled in. And then the first act, I thought was kind of uneven. It just felt like the first act really wanted to rocket forward and like check all the boxes and stuff. And then I started to enjoy it again somewhere in the second act, all the way up until like the climax began.
Yeah.
And then it started to get shaky again for me. So there is stuff that I did really enjoy, and there are moments that I got lost in. There are parts of this film that I think work really smoothly, and there are other ones that don't kind of. And one of the interesting things is I liked how they paired off most of the characters. Drax spends a lot of time with Mantis, and Rocket spends a lot of time with Yondu, and Star-Lord is kind of with his dad the whole time, and Groot is over here.
And like Gamora and Nebula.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool. I could have used a little bit more of the ensemble just to, doing their ensemble thing, like thriving as an ensemble.
Because this film definitely has a lot of weird stuff, and honestly, I thought I left a little more disappointed than satisfied. I have to be honest about it. And I think the crowd we were with, too, was definitely disappointed. Like, to give you an idea, when the movie started off, trailers are playing, everyone's losing their shit during cool trailers. Movie starts off, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 title comes on, people are loving it, everyone's laughing, clapping, having a great old time. Then by the time the movie was done, even during its 5 post-credit scenes, no one clapped. Not a single person clapped. I was expecting like, okay, there's probably gonna be a minimal applause at least.
The people who get it will understand.
Yeah, and no one applauded when the movie was done. No one really gave a about the there's a bleep there. No one really cared about the post-credit sequences. And one of the biggest issues I had with the film was the comedy of the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I
very uneven.
I told John that a lot of the comedy reminded me of sort of how sci-fi movie with comedy Men in Black became comedy movie with sci-fi Men in Black 2. There's more sex jokes than the first one. The first Guardians of the Galaxy, one thing I really admire about that film is the way the comedy's handled. You have these great scenes where danger is felt. the drama's felt, and then, oh, there's a surprise joke here, you know?
Yeah.
Or the comedy was always in the context of the characters. It never felt like, why'd they force that joke in there? Or why'd they do this joke?
Exactly.
In the first one, you don't see punchlines coming. There's very specific moments in this film where I'm like, they're trying to sell us that this is a serious moment, but I feel a punchline coming. And then the punchline comes, and no one's laughing, you know?
Yeah, there is some awkward comedy.
Very awkward comedy.
The comedy in this movie is uneven, to say the least. And this was kind of the fear that you echoed, was that they would kind of take all those things that we love and sort of ramp them up in the wrong direction. And from the very first, it's like I said, I was really enjoying the opening sequence, the opening credit sequence where they're all fighting. And the second the characters started to talk and the jokes came in, I was kind of feeling what you're feeling, like, oh, I don't know. It seems like they went, oh yeah, everybody loved that the first one was funny, so now let's make Drax just a comedy character.
One of my big issues with the film was how Drax was actually handled.
Yep.
While he has some truly, like, don't get me wrong, there's some comedy moments that are truly laugh out loud hysterical, but there's also a lot that are like, okay, that was weird.
Because Drax isn't just a big boisterous buffoon. He's also a warrior, and he's also intelligent.
He's got passion. He's got a heart. Here, they amp up his meanness, like how mean he is.
Yeah.
They amp up his sex jokes for sure. And he's also kind of useless in this movie. He doesn't really do anything to serve the Guardians of the Galaxy. Even by the time you get to its big finale, it's like, I guess the whole point of Drax being here on this mission was to do this one thing. But other than that, he's kind of useless. He doesn't really seem to have a strong motivational purpose involved in any of this. He is rather a two-dimensional character who's just thrown in for like a lot of jokes and a lot of Drax cracking up hysterically at things.
And that was something that just surprised me, because it almost seemed like they didn't understand that character anymore. Because the first one, he was a highlight for me because I didn't expect him. When I saw clips again before this movie, I was like, one of the things I'm most excited to see again is Drax. I really enjoyed that character. And by the time the movie I was done, it's like he spends the first act just bursting out into laughter.
Yeah.
It's almost as if somebody said, you have a great laugh, and it's really funny when you do it, so just laugh at everything.
Yeah.
And it does start to bog down the movie, and I think one of the biggest flaws about this film is that it gets bogged down at every turn almost by crowd pleasing.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of took the edge and some of the excitement out of this.
Oh, totally. And one of the other big issues I have with this is I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 1 again not long ago, and one of my comments was, I love the attention to detail in character responses and what they choose to say, and the way scenes are put together, reactions to things. And here, I feel like the attention to detail was just not really given as much. It's like, I mean, you talk about attention to detail in terms of like design and whatever. That's all there. That's all good.
But in the writing, the details, of the characters and their behavior. There are scenes where the first movie would have made a joke and then acknowledged the context of the situation, and in the second movie, those jokes will go on an extra 3 or 4 lines now, and it starts to mess with the reality. Yeah. Because it starts to be like, oh, these guys can just kind of get away with anything.
And there are moments where jokes happen where I'm like, that just didn't fit in the moment, and sometimes I'm like, that's a little out of character.
Or there is some stuff that just feels a little bit like not great improv.
And we'll definitely talk about this in the spoiler, but the finale, while there was some great moments that really hit, there's also moments where comedy feels out of place and character responses to things feel very much left out. The attention to detail here, it's missing. Yeah, it's all in the script in terms of the characters and everything. Even the way the first act is handled with setting up of how they get to go see Ego. I didn't like decisions that characters made. I didn't like how they have this huge action scene that has no sense of danger. Yeah. And that was one thing the first movie does well, is like the danger is still felt. You know the characters will be fine. The danger and you can feel the characters taking this situation seriously even when there's comedy moments. It's a very uneven film for me. The details of things just really leave. It's hard to really explain this without the spoilers, to be honest.
Yeah. It's like at the end of this, I did have fun, and there's a lot of stuff I do admire. Yeah. And I think that there are things, especially when the movie finally hits a stride and in the second act and stuff like that. And even some of the things from the finale I think are really, really good. It's just, it's bogged down by some weird stuff. And one of the other big things about it is it doesn't really make any progress with the Marvel villain problem, because the way they start with their villain is great, and where they end up with it just kind of loses all the greatness and becomes just another rote villain. Just another evil, I must kill you with all of my unstoppable, extraordinary power villain. And that's a bummer too, because like the setup was so good and the payoff was just kind of like everything.
I will say one thing that I do like too that this movie handled well was some of its darker scenes, like its darker elements, and then some of its really dramatic scenes too.
Great.
Yeah, I thought some of that was really great. Overall, I would say it's a decent entry. It's a disappointment in terms of like it felt like a major step down in terms of great filmmaking.
It's a lot of fun. Like I get the joy people had. I even enjoyed it. I might have enjoyed it more than you did.
And I think I wouldn't, and it's definitely not a rehash, which was something I appreciated a lot. Like they're really trying new things out.
Yeah, it's not a lazy movie at all. I just don't think it's tight.
Yeah.
It's not a tight film.
And the sovereign characters, those gold people you see in the trailers, I like the way they look. Didn't really care for how they were handled overall, though. They were something where I was like, there's definitely issues. For me, I would say this movie is overall, I would say it's good.
It's pretty good.
I'd say it's a good movie. I'm not close to saying it's a great film, though.
For what most people seem to want, and most reactions I've seen just from friends and people around, people are really enjoying it.
It's funny, entertaining. There's definitely some great action sequences in there.
If you like all that stuff from the first movie, it just gives you more of all that stuff. So there's more comedy, there's more creatures, there's more weird planets, and there's more edgy banter.
Yeah.
And some of that works and some of it doesn't.
Alright guys, well you can subscribe to The Real Rejects. You can follow John at Reasons to Jerry on Twitter and Instagram. He's the social media manager at Blumhouse and The Real Rejects. Go check out our Patreon. Click that notification bell. And cuss words are not gonna happen.
Not happening here.
I love everything.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool.